I have a few things to say tonight. I always forget that when you stand up here, you can't see a thing, which I used to think was a blessing, particularly when I was reading, so I didn't get so nervous. But I'm going to be here for a few minutes. I'm going to introduce both of our readers at the same, while I'm up here, so we don't go back and forth. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about Annie Balocating, who the prize is named for. But to start off, because I'm now the series editor for Wheelbarrow Books, which, as Toby said, started about 10 years ago. And many of you young poets, I hope, will find your way perhaps sometime to submitting manuscripts to Wheelbarrow Books, because we are looking for first books and we are looking for established writers too. We've been around for about 10 years. When we started Wheelbarrow Books, I was very interested in publishing first books because I felt it was very hard for a poet to get a first book out. Now I think it's equally hard to get out your second and third and fourth books. But we started off doing 2 books a year, one by an established poet and one by what we call an emerging poet. COVID came and blew the bottom out of everything, as you all know. And after COVID, we are now down to doing 1 book a year, but we alternate between the emerging poets and the established poets. Tonight, the winner of the Annie Balocating Prize is getting $500, which is pretty cool for 1 poem. And for winning the Wheelbarrow Books manuscript contest, you get $1,000, which doesn't seem, you get $500 for 1 poem, you get $1,000 for 65 poems. Something's wrong with that equation, but that's the way the poetry world works. We have a list of judges of national repute, of which Thomas Lynch is one, Naomi Nye, Mark Doty, Tahimba Jess. I could run down through the list, but I won't do that for you. I did want to show you a couple of books. Our most recent book, and I have to give kudos to the MSU Press here because of their great designers. The most recent one, Singing Under Snow, which is timely, but we should have maybe Breaking Forth from the Grass next or something. Anyway, that was the most recent one. Our very first one was called Taking Care of Time, and it was written by a nurse practitioner, and it's about caregiving from many perspectives. We've come to know some of these authors quite well, and one of my favorites is Smuggling Elephants Through Airport Security. This is by Brad Johnson. He was here last year. Carolyn Porcher chose his book, an unlikely pair, but they did well together. And also we have had Daniel Lassell, whose book, Spit, is about growing up on a llama farm. And his book was chosen by Gabriella Calvacaresi. And then we also have one of my very favorites, Marion Boyer's Ice Hours, which is about the Shackleton expedition to Antarctica. I don't think I've ever been as cold in my life as I was when I read this book. And the other interesting thing about Marion was she submitted to Wheelbarrow Books and was a finalist, but did not win. She revised her manuscript and she won 2 years later. And her book was chosen by Carol Davis. But I'm so proud of our readers, our judges, the design people at the MSU Press, and everybody, the readers, everybody who is involved in bringing new voices into the poetry world and sustaining older voices. And we could not do this without the help of the interns who read manuscripts for us, other poets around the country who read for us, and a group of patrons who donated time and money to get this endeavor off the ground. And we're very grateful for all of those people. We now are working on collaboration with the Theodore Recchi Foundation up in Saginaw. And in fact, Julia and Tom will be going from here up to Saginaw on Friday to do a poetry roundtable at Theodore Recchi's, the house Theodore Recchi grew up in. And if you don't know Theodore Recchi and you're a Michigan poet, get with it. You should. Music, music, music. I wake to sleep and take my waking slow. I learn by going where I have to go. And more. So that's what I'm going to say about Wheelbarrow Books. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Annie Balocating, and then I'm going to introduce our 2 speakers. I first met Annie Balocating when I was the director of the Royal Program in the College of Arts and Letters, and Annie was one of 60 freshmen accepted into the program the first year of its existence. This was a wonderful, creative, exuberant group of young people who formed lasting friendships that took them well beyond their years at MSU. Annie Balocating was at the center of these friendships. Everyone liked Annie for her infectious warmth and smile, her creativity, and her sense of responsibility. She became the archivist for the Royal Program, keeping a scrapbook for every year of the activities students were engaged in, the poems and stories they wrote, the places they traveled. I don't know how many pictures she took in her 4 years in Royal, but because of her, we know about the Royal Players, the 1940s radio show production, the Royal Writers, our trips to Stratford, and other activities and events. Among her talents was a keen interest in language. She was a Russian major for a while, later becoming an English major. I discovered she was a fine young poet too. Several of the poets in the area, including myself, Laura Apol, who is here tonight, a recent Lansing area poet laureate, a retired English professor, Diane Wachowski, and a few others formed a poetry group that met once a month to look at our work. We invited Annie to join us. She was the only student in the group and younger by far than the rest of us. But she always came with an interesting poem to workshop and gave us good feedback on our own poems. Annie eventually moved from poetry into working on issues of social justice, even spending time in Rwanda in the years of the genocide. Had she chosen the life of a poet, I have no doubt she would be one of the outstanding young poets the Center for Poetry would be inviting to come tonight, not only because of her talents with language and her work on important social issues, but because when Annie heard that the RCAH Center for Poetry had been established, she was the first person who contacted me and offered a $500 donation to help us get underway. At that time, she and her husband, Jerry Coulard, another former Royal student, were living in New York City, where Jeremy was teaching Spanish in high school, and Annie was a graduate student at the New School for Social Research. They didn't have much money, but they wanted to share what they had a cause they believed in, promoting poetry at MSU, in the Lansing area, and beyond. Tonight, and every year, we honor Annie's vivacious, creative, and altruistic life with the Annie Balocating Prize for Poetry, keeping alive both her memory and the encouragement of young writers at MSU. So that's just a little bit about Annie.
Now, I am very honored and very pleased to call up Farah for her, I think she's going to read for us her prize-winning poem. And the poem, which I had the good luck of reading when I was in the Lesser Antilles a couple weeks ago, has such a moment in it, a moment that I think you'll all recognize when we come to a certain point in our life when we know that we are finite, that we are, and the numbers are convincing on this. They hover right around 100%. So, but Farah has gotten the moment just right in a marvelous poem, which I'm hoping she will read for us, called The Way Things Are. Do I have that right? The Way of Things. Thank you. And Farah, are you here? Thank you. Let's do whatever you want.
I just wanted, first of all, I want to say thank you so much, but I just wanted to say before I read the poem that I wrote this at a time when I think I was very angry at the world, and I am, since I wrote this, I feel like I've had so many positive experiences with other people, and so I do want to say that it's not all hopeless, and I do also want to say that I see this poem in a different way now, which is that I took a time in my life where everything was very painful, and I think something really great came out of it and something meaningful came out of it, and so that's kind of how I like to see this now. So this poem is called The Way of Things. I wish I could tell you about Christmas morning. I broke down sobbing at the hotel breakfast table at the sight of a little boy in a striped neon jersey yelling chirpily across the room, and thought about all the filthy things he was going to do and have done to him. Father, yes, I know the way of things. It comes for us all in the end. It's just the world looks a tad bit blacker through my eyes now. I guess I've never been able to stand the unstoppable shrapnel tide of corruption it brings, even to fat-cheeked children who have done no wrong, none at all. Thank you.
I forgot to present you with this actual certificate, suitable for framing. I think you could make copies of it so that all the people who wonder why you do that stuff with poetry, you can give them a copy for your office. Thank you very much.